first thing I want to do is have Jason Norton and Tim McNaught and Dave Smizer. There, Dave Smizer. Come up, please. Yes? Oh, I always forget to introduce myself. I'm Sylvia Morgan. I'm the police chief, for those of you that don't know me. So one of the things we started doing at our award ceremony is recognizing promotions within the department, because it's an important part, obviously, of the department, and it's not something we've really done before. So we've had a lot of transitions since April, when the former police chief resigned, or excuse me, didn't resign, he retired. And so after that, there's a whole lot of movement going on in the police department, so we've had a lot of promotions. So I wanted to take a minute and introduce everybody to Jason Norton. He began his employment here at the police department in June of 1999. He was promoted to sergeant in October of 2010, and just in August was promoted to lieutenant. So I just want to make sure everybody congratulate him. Thank you. And I have two more sergeants here that just recently promoted to sergeant, but I did want to mention that Zach Mikulik, who was not able to be here today, has been promoted to sergeant also since the last time we had a award ceremony in July of 2017. He became a sergeant. He's been employed here since February of 2008. Dave Smizer was the next promotion. He began his employment here in June of 2001, and he was promoted to sergeant in just September of 2017. So he had to get a whole new uniform and stuff, because he was in investigations before that, and he probably didn't have one that was up to date.
Still fit.
It's still fit, though? Well, that's good. So I congratulate Dave Smizer on his promotion. And next we have Tim McNaught, who is also another awesome investigator. He began his employment here in March of 1999, and he was promoted to sergeant. Well, he's going to be promoted to sergeant in about 10 days, 11 days? A week from Monday, he will be a sergeant. So I wanted to take time to congratulate him on his accomplishments as well. Thank you, guys. I just wanted to, congratulations. All right. So does Dasmond Elsie make it? Dasmond? No. How about Siobhan Peterson? I don't think she's here either. All right. So next we'll have Robert Diaz. And did Thomas Johnson make it yet? Nope. I guess we're just going to have him. And Thomas Johnson and Officer Joe Cassidy were also involved in this incident that I'm going to tell you about. On August 12th, 2017, in the afternoon, a woman was walking her dog in Victory Park. She's here today. She wanted to come and also help recognize the people that helped her that day. So she's walking her dog through the park, and there's a house nearby that had several dogs, I believe 4 different dogs inside of the house, that they weren't, the door wasn't shut. It was some kind of a baby gate or something trying to hold these dogs inside. And it was not, even if it was latched, I don't know if it's something they could have jumped over. It wasn't very secure. So when she walks by with her dog, going on a walk, minding her own business, looking at the flowers, and all of these dogs come out of this house and start attacking her, not just her dog, but her as well. Very scary thing that happened to her, obviously. There were 2 people nearby that heard what was going on and saw what was going on, and Robert Diaz is one of them. He was working in the area at a nearby house. He heard the screams and heard the commotion, so he came over to help her along with Thomas Johnson, and they were able to kind of keep the dogs back, get them away from her and Dovey, and try to keep them back so that they couldn't attack her anymore. The police were called at some point, and Officer Joe Cassidy came, started to try to help her when one of the dogs was still loose in the area, came back, started walking up behind the officer, and I believe was going to try to attack everybody again at that point. So she yelled to him and warned the officer that the dog was coming back up upon him, and so he, pulled his gun, thinking he was going to have to shoot this dog if it wasn't going to, in order to protect her or himself. And was able to chase it away again. He kind of ran off. Some other officers got in the area, and they were all trying to get this dog captured so they could get him off, keep everybody safe. At some point, the dog turns around and charges him, and he had decided to change his gun for the OC spray that we carry, like a pepper spray. It's usually pretty effective on animals, so he used that instead of a gun, so he didn't have to, shoot the dog, and was able to get the dog to, again, retreat, able to go back and help the woman with her dog. The medical personnel had gotten there, were trying to help her. Well, she had several cuts and thought she probably needed stitches, but she didn't want to go to the hospital right away, so Officer Cassidy gave her and her dog a ride home so she could get the dog back home before she went to go get help for herself. She got to the hospital with the help of a friend. However, Officer Cassidy had given her his information so that if she needed a ride home from the hospital, she could call him. And so that's what happened. She did need a ride home once she had got treatment at the hospital. She calls Joe back, says, I need a ride home from the hospital. He comes and gets her, takes her home. One of the things that when I talked to the woman that was attacked that day, the big thing that she kept saying was that Officer Cassidy was so caring and so concerned about her well-being, and he kept telling her how brave she was for, had been so brave after all she'd been through. And that really had an impact on her in the weeks and months after this attack, and she really thought about that a lot. He came back the very next day to check on her again to make sure she was okay. And I think that between Robert and Thomas stepping in, being willing to step up and help somebody that was in need, that's something that we rely on the community for. We need them to help us do our jobs and to help us do these sorts of things and to get involved and help people when they need it. And Officer Cassidy clearly prevented another attack on the woman and her dog. And we can teach officers how to be officers, but we really can't teach them kind of the human side of that. And so obviously it comes naturally to him. And I don't know if you want to step up and say anything, but you're obviously very passionate about what happened. I don't want to put you on the spot at all, but if you wanted to say something.
Hold on, let me arm myself with Kleenex. I won't take long. The thing I want to emphasize here is that we were this close, and I'm not kidding, to the big it. These dogs charged us. 3 pit bulls at once charged us, threw her to the ground, and started to kill her. I'm right here, honey bunny. Well, no, you can't go pester him yet. Is that buddy so cute? Okay, whoops, I'm sorry, sit down. I'll be right with you. There was no doubt that the intent was to kill. There was no doubt at all. And she was fighting defensively, which is the only reason she didn't get killed right away. She got bit in the neck, and the second that happened, I covered her to try to get in between the dog that was trying to kill her. I was kicking 2 dogs with my feet who were biting me through my shoes. And the dog that was trying to kill her didn't like that I was beating on him and trying to get in between. I was screaming for help at the same time. Multitasking, you might call it. And so he turned and bit me on my forearm all the way through to the fatty tissue, and then went back for her. And I don't know how long this went on. It felt like a lifetime. Anybody who's been through a very dangerous situation knows that you have no sense of time at all. And really, there was a moment at which I knew I couldn't keep this up forever. I was fighting 3 pit bulls, and at that moment, Thomas, from a block away behind the apartment building that is there, came running up with a brick and started screaming, and the dogs dispersed for a minute. Everybody in the park ran and jumped in cars. One guy jumped on top of a car. I mean, these dogs were nuts, and they had tasted blood, so they were wild by this time. The people who owned these dogs were 30 feet away, never came out. There were 2 people there in the house. Thomas heard them talking when he ran up. They were watching all this the whole time. It took me a long time to get over that, but oh well, that's their karma. Anyway, Joe Cassidy is to be thanked from the bottom of my heart, as is Thomas and Robert as well. Thank you. Robert came running. I screamed at him to call the police. I think he had already done it. And so I am grateful. And I think we have one of the finest police departments in the world here. I've always thought that. There's a lot of bad press going around, as I said to Sylvia the other day, but I don't think our police department deserves any of it. They deserve our support at all times. And I am grateful for my life and my dog's life. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to present you, Robert, with this certificate of appreciation for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for helping
Thank
us
you.
that day and for helping her mostly. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. Susan Vargas Sheltra was spelled wrong initially, so I hope we got it right. All right, so back in August 21st, in the afternoon, the Busey Bank at the Pines was robbed. And that day, there was a person that was not necessarily a customer of the bank, but was in the area and had seen this gentleman, well, I don't want to call him a gentleman, so had seen the guy go into the bank, and then came back out a short while later. He kind of runs up to this woman and says, hey, you know, get back in your car. And she's like, I don't have a car. And so he's all of a sudden like, what is this guy doing? Is he trying to carjack somebody? What's going on? What has he just done? So he gets on his bike and he follows this guy. He takes off running. And he sees that he goes over onto the east side of the Pines and runs over into the neighborhood over there, Myra Ridge subdivision. So police obviously are called because the bank was robbed. Then when the police get in the area, the guy Ernie, his name is Ernie, he did not make it today. Susan's the only one that made it today. There were supposed to be 4 different people, citizens that helped us that day. So Ernie, the first one, he's on the bike, he follows the guy, sees him go into Myra Ridge subdivision. So when the police get there, he tells them what he saw. And so this was very important because a lot of times when people rob a bank, the employees may not see how the person gets away. Do they have a car? Is somebody waiting to pick them up? You know, where did they go afterwards so that we can actually catch them? So that was very important that he did that. He kind of followed at a distance to stay safe, but he sees him go in there. So of course all the police officers, you know, the ones go to the bank, but we have a bunch of them go over to Myra Ridge subdivision, start looking for this guy. And there were a couple people walking with their kids in the neighborhood, and so officers tell them to go home, tell them what's going on, give them kind of a description of this guy in case they see him. And so when you the timeline is kind of hard to piece together when you're reading multiple police officers, police reports and stuff. But ultimately what happens is between Caitlin and Evan, who are the people that were walking, they're having a walk with their children that day, and Susan, they all saw this guy in the neighborhood. He was either running by your house, and I think your shed door was open that day. Officers searched the shed thinking he might have been in there hiding or trying to, and likely is what happened. He probably thought, oh, can I hide in this shed? He wasn't there, but you were able to give the police officers a place so that when we have a canine come out to try to track the suspect, we had a starting place for that person because you reported what you saw, him running by your house. And then, like I said, it's kind of hard to piece together, but Caitlin and Evan both saw this guy as well, running from one place to another. One of them reported that he didn't have anything in his hands, which was important because he did when he left the bank. Obviously, he had a bag with some stuff in it. And so shortly after Evan and Caitlin saw him, we were able to locate him hiding behind a house in the neighborhood. And he didn't have any of the evidence with him, the money or any of the other stuff that he was wearing or anything like that kind of made it distinctive. So they were able to piece together between where everybody reported, like he ran from here, he went this way and that way. They were able to backtrack and go and find all of the evidence. They recovered all of the cash that was taken from the bank, and they recovered some other distinctive things that he had with him at the time that he had taken off and shed so that he wouldn't be as recognizable. So ultimately, he, of course, denies that he did anything, but once we were able to find the evidence, he said, well, if you show me what you found, then maybe I'll tell you something. And so, of course, they showed him what they found, and he's like, okay, I guess I robbed the bank, So, I mean, you laugh, but sometimes that stuff, you can't make this stuff up, right? So ultimately, all of those things, I mean, if we didn't have the help from the citizens, you know, showing us and pointing us in the right direction, it's possible that we wouldn't have found him, we wouldn't have found them. He was able to obviously hide from us for quite a while before we were able to catch him, but ultimately, without your help, you know, I don't know that we would have been so successful that day. So I want to make sure and tell you how appreciative we are of you getting involved. Not everybody wants to be involved. Not everybody calls and tells us what they see. So I want to say thank you very much for that. Thank you. There's a letter on the back there for you. Thank you. All right. So I just want to check one more time. Is Siobhan Peterson show up? Okay, and Thomas Johnson, no. And Desmond Elsie. All right, it's going to be a short one today. How about Colby Wright and Adam Marcotte? All right, this is Officer Adam Marcotte and Officer Colby Wright. All right, so on June 21st, 2017, in the evening hours, they were both on routine patrol, and Officer Marcotte located a vehicle. I believe that the registered owner of that vehicle was wanted. So he asked for Officer Wright to come up and help him. This vehicle pulled into a gas station on North Lincoln, and at that point, once they had stopped, they got out and talked to the occupants of the vehicle. Officer Marcotte starts to talk to the driver of the vehicle, who was pumping gas, while Officer Wright approached the passenger side of the vehicle. So this is like a single cab pickup truck. So there's 3 people in this vehicle. The driver got out to pump gas. The other 2 are still in the vehicle. When they see the officers approaching, the person that was sitting next to the door on the passenger side starts to climb over the middle passenger into the driver's seat, which obviously piqued their interest. You know, why are they doing that? Because they're good police officers and stuff. So they're like, oh, what's going on? Officer Wright goes up to the passenger side, tries to open the door, but it's locked, so he can't get in. He also can't see. What are they doing? Are they going for a weapon? Are they trying to, you know, start the truck? What are they doing? So ultimately, he decides he's got to break out the window, so he does that with his fist, breaks out the window, tries to grab onto the passenger. He can see now that the person that had climbed over into the driver's seat is trying to start the truck to get away, not knowing, you know, what are they trying to hide? Why are they fleeing? So he tries to grab onto the person that's kind of sitting in the middle, but the other guy gets the truck started and starts to drive off. So he has to let go so that he doesn't further injure himself. We're thankful for that, by the way. We don't want you to be hurt. All right, so they drive off. So he's like, okay, I can't really go after them because the driver's still over here with Officer Marcotte. So he goes back over. Officer Marcotte's starting to ask the driver some questions about what's going on. He tried to get in the vehicle before it took off as well, but that to no avail either. So all of a sudden, the guy that was pumping gas, or was getting ready to pump gas, starts putting his hands in his pockets. And so for those people that don't know, that's a really big flag for us. When people start putting their hands in their pockets, we tell them to take their hands out of their pockets. We don't know what they have in their pockets. It's a huge officer safety issue for us. So he tells him to take his hands out of the pocket. He won't. So they both start to detain him to take his hands out of his pockets. He pulls away from them, starts running. They, of course, give chase, ordering him to stop, ordering him to take his hand out of his pocket. He continually has his hand in his pocket while he's running. I don't know if you've ever tried to run with your hand in your pocket. That's not a natural thing. So, like, the fact that he's still got his hand in his pocket is a real concern to them. So they are running around chasing this guy, and they finally, and I don't know, you wrote a really good police report. I could, like, picture it in my head, but I didn't want to bore everybody with this running around. They finally catch him, which is the good part. Get him down on the ground. He still will not take his hand out of his pocket. So again, still really concerned about what is in his pocket that is so important that he's hanging on to. Ultimately, they were able to get his hand out of his pocket and handcuff him. He had quite a bit of controlled substances and prescription drugs on his person, but not a weapon, thankfully. However, the truck that drove off, officers were kind of looking for it. You know, it had taken off. They had radioed all that in, so there were other officers looking for it. They find the truck, and close by the truck, they find a rifle case with a .22 long rifle in it, had a magazine and ammunition with it. All right, so obviously there's no way for us to know what these guys were up to, what they were going to do with that gun. But obviously, if they hadn't been, you know, thwarted by these nice, fine officers here, then something horrible could have happened, obviously. No way for us to know what that would have been, but I just want to make sure and tell them how appreciative I am that they do such good work for us here at the police department, and I think everybody in the community would be thankful to them as well. So, Officer Wright, we got to pose for the pictures and stuff like that. There's a certificate of merit. And officer, you get out, yeah, get out the picture. Yep. Come on. Thank you very much, guys. All right. Corey Coker, you're next. This is Sergeant James Corey Coker. He likes to go by Corey, so we're going to call him Corey. On April 4th, in the evening hours, he's on routine patrol, as he always is. He went to a gas station on North Lincoln, got out, was maybe going to get a snack or something to drink, coffee. He works nights, so you got to drink coffee, stay awake, stuff like that. And just I'm not making fun of that, Corey. I'm just saying it was so lucky that he was there, because wait until...
I don't see any firefighters, so go ahead.
Wait, I don't care if they're here or not. It's going to be on TV. They can watch it later. So he's going in just minding his own business, and somebody yells, fire. Well, he's at a gas station. That's not a good thing. So looks outside. There are flames near one of the pumps out there, and immediately he thinks, I gotta do something, because you can't just wait for the fire department to show up when there's a fire at the gas station. So he yells at the employee to turn the emergency shut-off valve, grabs an extinguisher from the gas station, and goes out and empties the entire first extinguisher, and still the fire is not out. So the employee grabs another one and gets it to him. He's able to finally extinguish the fire with the second fire extinguisher. So it wasn't just a small fire. It obviously was spreading its gasoline, By the time the fire department got there, he had already taken care of the fire, luckily.
They don't like that.
I know, they don't like when we put fires out, but what are you supposed to do? You're there and you have a fire extinguisher, you put the fire out, right? I mean, who knows what would have happened had he not done that, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to be hanging around the gas station when there's a fire going on, all right? Obviously, ultimately learned that it was accidental, stupidity by someone with a cigarette pumping gas. Yeah. Clearly says, don't use your phone, don't smoke, but we can't fix stupid. So, yeah. So ultimately, it wasn't intentional, which it could have been possibly, but it wasn't. If it weren't for his quick actions, I don't know how many lives he saved and the property damage for that, but yeah, mostly his life. I'm sure he was thinking about all the people at the gas station when he ran out there to put the fire out. Obviously, you put your life on the line. I mean, that's not something we do every day, put fires out, okay, or that sort of thing. So I just think that it's really important to say thank you for not stopping and thinking of yourself, but immediately taking care of the situation so that there were no. And because he saved lives and well, I don't want to say save, it's not like he did CPR, okay, but we don't know what would have happened had he not, put the fire out. So obviously that raises to the level of a heroism award because of what he did. And he put his life on the line to do that. So I want to present you with a heroism award. Thank you, Corey. All right, the last one I got is Hunter's retirement. This is Hunter. All right, he is our canine officer. He was our canine, and he began employment here with the police department in September of 2008. He initially was assigned to Jay Lushin, who was in patrol at the time. Jay was promoted to sergeant in July of 2012, and that's when Hunter became reassigned to Mike Cervantes. This is Officer Mike Cervantes. This is really about the dog, though. It's not about him, just so everybody's clear. It's not about Mike. All right. So he continued working with Mike until June of this year. June of 2017, he got to retire. All right, he gets to eat more regularly now. He can hang around the house. He doesn't have to be shut up in his cage and stuff. He doesn't really want to mind anymore. Say that. Before, he would never do that. But now he's like, I'm retired. I can do whatever I want. So I just want to tell you a little bit about his career here. He is responsible for 380 open-air vehicle sweeps, which is when he sniffs around a vehicle to detect whether or not there are illegal substances in the vehicle. 42 residence and building sweeps, 18 school sweeps. Sometimes the schools call us and they want us to do sweeps at this high school. And 84 tracks where he's either looking for a person or articles or something like that somebody has dropped. As a result of all of that, he has been responsible for seizing the following things. Over $59,000 in cash, over 47,000 grams of cannabis, more than 790 grams of cocaine, more than 400 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, more than 33 grams of methamphetamine, more than 15 grams of heroin, 9 handguns, and 3 vehicles. He's also located 11 people during the 84 tracks that he's done, along with several articles and numerous pieces of drug equipment.
Debbie is impressed.
He's done
Wants to meet this guy.
He's done 25 planned community events where we actually scheduled him to go out and do some type of community event. It doesn't really count all the times that he's had done impromptu demonstrations on the street where they would get out and show some kids or do stuff like that. And so I think it's very important to acknowledge him because he's an officer here for 9 years. And so we have a plaque that we're going to give to Officer Cervantes, but we're also going to give one to Jay Lushin because they almost split the time together. And so just really commemorating Hunter's time here at the police department. And he doesn't care about this, but he cares about this. Oh, I bet he's going to care about that. And we also got him some Frosty Paws, I believe, the ice cream dog treats. You can't eat them, Mike. They're not for you.
Hunter wants to say something.
He's like, what's up with that? What do you got there, Dad?
Hunter wants to say a few words here. Ritz, 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 oh, Ritz, 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 Ritz.
There we go. There you go, Mike.
I'm running out of hands here. All right, thank you.
All right.
Buddy.
Well, I had several more good stories to tell you today, but people that didn't show up. We had somebody that helped us catch a residential burglar, someone that helped us catch a vehicle burglar, which are very, very big problems in our community, and then the other people that were involved in the incidents that I already told you about. But so we kind of have a short ceremony today, but there are lots of yummy cupcakes up here. So please come up and have some cupcakes and enjoy yourselves. And thanks for coming, everybody.